then we've changed it quite a bit.
Okay.
Since March, and kind of what we've learned and what we haven't, or what we've learned and what's been successful. But it's really dependent on how you're thinking about structuring.
No, I think that's
you can take that post and use the content since it's on LinkedIn.
Yep. And we can link to that. That's great. I think that makes sense. Yeah, on Friday afternoon, I sent you over just some like quick questions, which I think by answering it, you will sort of get at that of sort of like what you did initially and how it's changed. So I think that flow makes sense.
Great.
Cool. Okay.
Let's start there then. I'm going to be honest. I haven't had a chance to look at the questions, but I'm sure
totally fine.
We'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to record us so we can have it for transcribing and all that good stuff. So maybe to kick it off and just to have it sort of like on the record, can you just give a quick overview of the marketing team at Lessonly, like how big, the roles, where it's at now?
Yeah, the marketing team is split into 3 teams. We have the demand gen team, which is made up of our senior director of demand gen, 2 content writers, a experiential marketing manager. She basically manages our user conference as well as our events and direct mail and customer marketing. And then we have a web developer. And then we have a brand team, and that consists of our director of brand and 2 designers. And then we have a product marketing team, which is 1 person that reports to me. So all in all, I think the entire team is 10 people that focus on demand gen's top of the funnel all the way through to the expansion of a customer. We try to touch every point in the journey, customer journey.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great. So then maybe the best place to go from there is, can you give some context into when you first joined the team? Why did you implement agile marketing? Was anyone else at Lessonly using it? What was sort of the context of the environment you were walking into there?
I think we first wanted to implement it because there was definitely a lot of inefficiency with the production of assets. I think that's overall that was the main reason. There was not much planning around the production of assets, whether it was an ebook or a landing page or sales needed a one-sheeter or we needed to update the product page on the website, whatever the project was. And there wasn't a mechanism, I think second, there wasn't a mechanism around pushing the team past a certain production time frame. Like they had project plans, but it wasn't managed in the agile framework that I love, which is the sprint. And I think sprint's apart. Agile is much bigger than just sprint, but sprint's where we've honed in our skills as a marketing team to think of that 1 week time frame and what can we put in that 1 week time frame for a team of 10. And those are the 2 things. It's basically how do we manage production, how do we keep things moving, and how do we do continuous rapid improvement in the right way. And the best way to do that was planning in a sprint type mentality weekly.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how has it evolved? You kind of alluded to this earlier. I'd love to hear sort of how you set it up initially and then how you've evolved it and why.
Yeah, initially we set it up. We got off Asana and all moved into Trello. And Trello was used. Each individual had a Trello board, and then we had one big board for projects. How that has morphed is that we spent the past 6 months really defining our stand-up, which we have 15-minute stand-ups. I am definitely not putting complete sentences together, so you're going to have to...
Yeah. It's Monday morning.
Sorry. We perfected the 15-minute to 20-minute stand-ups every morning. We perfected the 1 hour Friday meeting to plan the next sprint the week after. We perfected the marketing request form that we put into place where people can request things to be done in the next week's sprint, so that you didn't have people randomly walking in the marketing room asking for something.
Yeah.
It took down the amount of things we had to produce, and it streamlined the actual, for lack of a better term, the supply chain of asks and our delivery of them. What we found was that we didn't know capacity of the team. So we would throw a bunch of things into the next week. We would move all of them off, but we didn't know whether or not we could add more in, or if we were at capacity. We didn't know if we were at capacity as a team. So basically, we used a Trello power-up called Time Estimator, I think. I can't remember what it's called, but it allows you to put a number into each card in Trello, and every week people have to come to the planning meeting basically saying, here's the amount of meetings I have next week, here's the amount of time I have available, and here's my 10. Each team member has like a 5 to 10 hour buffer that they hold, just in case something comes up, like a video that we have to do to win a deal or whatever. And that's how we plan capacity every Friday, planning the next week. It's Helen, who's a designer, has 30 free hours. Kyle has a ton of meetings, so he has like 10 free hours. And that's how we plan projects. And it shows how much we can actually do, and it's made us more productive in the long run because we actually know our capacity. That's probably been the biggest change in how we've planned sprints, and how we assign. It's almost like assigning points. You're assigning 0.25, half an hour, 1.5, and it allows the entire team to understand how much people have to work on.
Right. And are you going so far as at the end of each week to then like logging the amount of hours that are spent against that, or just as you go through that week by week, the team just gets better at trying to estimate their capacity?
It's the latter. I mean, we don't log.
Yeah.
We have a board that basically has everything we need to do, and if everything's moved over, then where there was no blockers, then what we bring up is that were we actually at capacity?
Right.
Because if we're pushing, we should have a couple things that get stalled.
Right.
In my mind. So we're in the third or fourth week of using the hours, so it's yet to be seen. I mean, it just helps us from a production standpoint. It has yet to be seen if it's driving better estimates, but it's definitely driving better production.
That's awesome.
More streamlined production.
Yeah. What else? Any other issues of like thinking about other people getting started, like watch outs or, things that will come over time? It definitely seems like capacity planning is one that you guys have evolved with. Anything else that comes to mind?
I'm telling you, like the marketing request form is simple. I built it on Trello. It has changed the entire process.
I know. I'm actually like I'm kind of laughing because I'm thinking back to my Wayfair days and like how much time we spent like fending off requests and like shuffling midweek, and like we should have 100% have done that.
Well, and it gives your team the lever to say, we can't do this right now. You need to fill out the form. It also vets things like, I need you to fix the slide when the sales team can do it themselves. Yeah. And it allows us to manage our time productively. That was seriously the biggest thing. And then it's really easy to use a Trello Chrome extension to, when a marketing request form comes in the inbox, you just create a card that's on backlog. And every week you look at that backlog and see what's the prioritization of the marketing requests. And then you pull 2 or 3 out depending on capacity into the working flow. I mean, that's been a marketing team, a software company that's doing it right, in my opinion, has to be owning every part of the funnel. So it shouldn't just be demand gen. So you're going to be getting requests from the services team, from the CX team, or the customer success team, the sales team, the product team. And if you're not getting that and you're not having capacity issues, then you're not aligned very well.
Right.
And I think we wouldn't have done that, and we wouldn't have pushed as hard as possible to become aligned if we didn't have the sprint type agile. And we don't go as far as to take the cards down, put points to prioritize, and all that is pretty simple. It's capacity and it's prioritization of time weekly.
Mm-hmm. What about, so like obviously if requests are coming from other groups, you know that it's a priority for them, but I feel like what often happens is like your team may want to work on something, but like you actually need sales to do a component of it or product to do a component of it. Like, so how are you making sure that if your team is prioritizing something for the week, that any other stakeholders who actually need to provide input to it are also prioritizing it?
We aren't right now, which is a good point. I don't think we don't have a good lever to pull there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
we assign, so when like a request comes in a perfect world, we assign a project manager on the team to that project. Mm-hmm. And they are responsible for getting everybody in the right timeline. And if they don't, then they become a blocker.
Right.
And we discuss that every Friday. And if it happens multiple times, then I take it upon myself to unblock it. Mm-hmm. So I guess we do have a lever. It's if there's blockers on our Friday meetings. Like if something didn't move because services didn't go to content or whatever, that's discussed in the meeting, and then I have a task to go unblock it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the extent. And sometimes I'm the blocker.
Yeah.
Actually, most of the time I'm the blocker.
Okay. What else comes to mind in terms of like someone is starting to implement this for the first time, or what sort of advice do you have?
Use Trello. Use the marketing request form. Use the Trello Chrome extension. Do the 15-minute stand-ups every morning, and it's imperative that you do them every morning and not push them. We had a 2-week span where we were kind of iffy on the stand-ups, like we were doing 2 one week and 2 the other week, and it completely derailed a lot of what we were doing. Share within the company what you're doing. We shared what we were doing via a lesson, of course, and I think all of your portfolio companies should be using Lessonly to do this, but we shared it via lesson, and a lot of people started getting on Trello and doing it themselves. Mm-hmm. I think any software company in our stage and the stages that OpenView invests in have to be involved in continuous rapid improvement. Mm-hmm. And sharing how we're doing that with the company also helped us get better as well, because we found out the product was using it a little bit differently, and so we got ideas. And we found out that some of the sales team was using it to do task management. So I think I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Get your team involved in the planning of it so that they have buy-in. About a month ago, we moved to 2-week sprints, and it was a dismal failure. Like it was horrid. Like it was my idea. I didn't involve in the team. I didn't involve the entire team in the planning of it, and it failed. And now we've gone back to 1-week sprints. And if I would have involved the entire team into like brainstorming around how to make it better before launching it, it would have went better. It would have went. It might not have worked, but at least the team would have been bought in.
Right.
It's the marketing leader's responsibility to deal with blockers. I think we already figured that out. Mm-hmm. We use the calendar function in Trello to plan content calendar.
Okay. Yeah, what other, so you have individual boards, you have the overarching project boards. Are there any other like key areas?
And then, we have a quarterly board and each they call them rows. What do they call them? Not rows. You have cards, boards, lists. Each list within the Trello board is a project or is a department. Like Demand Gen, Yellowship is our conference in April. Yellowship has its own list. And within each of those lists are milestones, like Yellowship speaker announcement email going out, and it has a due date. And when that project is moving into, we just move the card over to the sprint. Within that card, you have a checklist of what needs to be done and also a link to a project plan. Mm-hmm. So we use Trello as the central point, but in terms of like tracking processes and goals and everything, it's Google Docs. And each project links out to a Google Doc, and the project manager is tasked to manage that project doc.
Mm-hmm. That's sort of like the overarching project plan that has all the components in it. Yeah. Yep.
Where if they need to include sales in, they're sending that doc to track comments instead of trying to involve everybody in the Trello board.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. When you implemented this, was there any pushback from the team? Like thinking back to sort of like when you were originally going to do this?
Yeah, the biggest one was on the creative side. A lot of it wasn't really pushing back. It was concern of managing time so aggressively.
Yeah.
It's a fine balance with demanding that somebody spends 5 hours on a direct mail piece when they needed to spend 3 and be open and creative about it.
Right.
Or they needed to spend 10, because that's their creative process. It's really hard to put a time value on the creative process. I think that's your bullet point.
Yeah.
And so just be conscious of the fact that if you have a lot of creative people, it's harder to do the time management side of it. But the way that we talk about it is we want to make sure that we are producing. That's why estimates are important, right? Overestimate the work you're going to do on a creative thing so that you are managing time in the best way possible so you can be creative, but you don't feel like you're getting pinched. Mm-hmm. That's been the biggest pushback. The 2-week sprint thing was a failure, and there was a ton of pushback because it was a dumb idea.
Why was it such a failure?
It's 2 weeks, so you're talking about 10 people managing 2 weeks of time.
Yeah.
And we had note cards that everybody wrote on the note card. 0.25, 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2. So everybody had like 100 note cards.
Yeah.
And we were going to go through each project, and they were going to throw the note cards in for the time they were going to spend on it. It was just stupid. The process was bad. The idea was bad. 2 weeks makes sense from a product and engineering perspective. It's too much time for a marketing team.
Right.
Your world changes daily. There's not like a hey, we can work on this thing for 2 weeks and launch it. It's very we are changing things weekly, and I think that 2 weeks was just a pipe dream.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so we owned it. We cut it off, and we went back to 1 week. Just a dumb idea.
Cool. Well, I feel like with this and then with the content in your posts, I feel like we have a good base to work off of. Is there anything else?
I can send you, no, just let me see the draft and maybe I'll add in screenshots.
Yeah, definitely. So with the post, like how can we pull in like chunks of it rather than just, and then we can link back to it as well?
You don't even have to link to it. You can link to Lesson Lee's blog if you want.
Okay.
But it's you can ask Gail about like the search stuff you have to do on the back end, but you can pull anything from that blog.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to work on this over the next, let's say, week and a half or so, and then I'll shoot it back to you, and you can edit as you see fit, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. I'm sure we will talk again very soon.
We will.
There's not a lack of things to do.
Yeah, especially with your ABM stuff. Let us know how we can help.
Well, I will. The biggest thing is just list management right now.
Yeah.
But it'll get better.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great week. Say hi to the team.
Good. Yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, great.
We are firing. So it's if I can get on the other side of this ABM, then we've got Yellow Ship, which is in April.
Right.
That's pretty much the big conference.
Yeah.
Once that's done.
The landing page for that is phenomenal, by the way.
I have a great team of designers.
It looks
they are
really good.
That's just an example of why you give bandwidth to design teams.
It looks really good.
I'm lucky. I inherited an extremely creative and productive and good team.
Yeah. It looks awesome.
I appreciate that. Well, say hello to everybody for me.
Yes, for sure. We'll do. All right. Well, we'll chat soon, Kyle.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.